Good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting of Carpinteria Unified School District. It is February 11th. Can everybody please stand for the flag salute? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to begin with our closed session report. 2A, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, and Release, Government Code Section 54957. In closed session, by a unanimous vote, 5-0, the board adopted the decision of the independent hearing officer and approved the dismissal of employee 519 from the position of instructional assistant, effective immediately. The roll call vote was as follows. Ayes, Diamond, Schaefer, Green, Smith, and Bridgeford. C2B, we had conference with labor negotiators. Information was exchanged and no action was taken. At this time, we're going to go over our public comment, as well as the general procedures for public comment for the meeting. Public comments will be bundled together at the beginning of each alphabetical section of the agenda, beginning with E. Oh, well, D. No, E. Sorry. Beginning with, with E. So you'll step up to the podium and you'll have your time to speak. I know that we do have a fair amount of people, I believe, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand if you are here for open public comment, for comments for items not on tonight's agenda. 23. Okay. We are going to adjust the time for open public comment to 2 minutes. And we will begin public comment for items not on this agenda at this time. So if you'd like to make public comment tonight for items not on the agenda, please step up to the podium and next person just be ready to step up and go from there. Thank you.
Okay, all right. In the late 70s, we were very close to reaching 1,000 students. We were trying to reach it. I did my part with my 7 kids, but we didn't quite get to 1,000 students. They're now down to what I understand is under 600. In the late 70s, we had 2 administrators and 2 counselors. From what I understand now, you have 3 administrators and 3 counselors. Seems like the formula now is less enrollment, more admin. I think that's a real poor direction. I just heard that possibly one of the positions is a grant. I don't know. I didn't look into it. And one is possibly COVID money. I don't know how long we're going to ride that pony. But I didn't look at the rest of the schools. I didn't look at Summerland. The middle school, I don't know what's going on there. I just know at the high school, which I'm familiar with, that something's not right. 3 administrators and 3 counselors with less than 600, when almost double, you only had 2 and 2. And I think that should be looked at. I know what's going to happen when an administrator leaves. I know what's going to happen because it happened when I was there. That the comment will be, we have money set aside for that position. Nah, put that where teachers can get to that money. I really think, like I said, I enjoyed my 37 years. I was born and raised in Carpinteria. I enjoyed my 37 years at Carpinteria. But I think teachers are underpaid. And I just heard the buzzer, and Thank you for the time. Thank you for the time.
So please just come and step up. Maybe have a couple folks ready to go. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yes. First of all, hello, good evening. And I would like to apologize to Sylvia, Harper, Eden, Lendl, and any other GATE students that I work with, that I'm sorry that you have to find out this way, and that what I'm about to say will be sad. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Crystal Marshall. I've been the Gifted Education Coordinator for 3 years. I work with about 80 students across 3 campuses on a variety of STEAM subjects, 1 or more years above grade level. As some of you already know, GATE is being considered for elimination next school year. As a child, I experienced firsthand the disenfranchisement of learning in a district that did not provide services for its gifted population. That is why I take my job so seriously, and I'm standing here this evening, and I strive to be the educator advocate that I needed as a child. All students deserve to make 1 year's worth of academic growth each school year. According to the National Association for Gifted Children, many gifted children start the school year already knowing more than half of the grade level curriculum. Struggle and stimulation are necessary to foster a positive attitude towards school, true perseverance, and resiliency from failure. That's where I come in. Just today, 3rd graders started building a robot, and 4th graders completed a floor-sized timeline about evolution. These are simply not projects gen ed teachers can take on in the name of differentiation, especially when they are already overwhelmed by today's demands. Please reconsider eliminating GATE. Maybe we could make smaller cuts to multiple endeavors, or as Letty Garcia suggested last week, look into buying from less expensive material suppliers. I believe a solution can be reached without the detriment to the gifted population. Thank you.
Please just come up. Next person after next. Thanks.
I'm short. My name is Mary McWhirter. I used to serve on the school board from 1994 to 2006. And I remember our board was very excited as we dreamed up the family school and then instituted it. And each year I've been so proud that it just continues and continues. And I know that I'm sure all of you want to keep it too. And I just hope you can find a way to do it, because I think it's something unique for our school district that we offer. And some kids might slip through the cracks in different ways if they don't have this option. So, and as far as the GATE goes, I'm just adding a little 2 cents. We used to have the GATE blended classrooms at the middle school. They were awesome. My kids were in them, and I volunteered in them. And it was half of each class was GATE, and the other half were just high achievers that maybe didn't score GATE. And they were all presented with high quality. So I don't know why it went away. It was a really great program. Anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to share some perspective on this decision that's before you. My name's David Harrows. I'm a relatively new member of the Carpinteria community. My family and I moved here 3 years ago, and we frankly moved here for family school. We came from the East Coast, and we were looking for many places. I work in Westlake Village. We came all the way to Carp and lived here because of family school. And so I know there's a lot of things in front of you. I work in a business where we look at budget shortfalls all the time. I get the realities of that. There are tough trade-offs and tough choices. But I think there's another way to move forward than what's being recommended. We have 11 students who are rising 3rd graders in the family school. They deserve a right, just like the 8 students at Canalino who don't have a home for next year, to make a choice about where their families think is the best fit for their education. We have headroom in the 4th, 5th grade family school class if any of those rising 4th graders wanted to choose family school as an option. Those fourth graders could also be absorbed into the English-only classroom that already exists in fourth grade at Canalino. We have, I know, already several students who are interested rising second and third graders in Canalino now who would rather be at family school but didn't have that option when the K-1 class was eliminated this year. So I think we have an opportunity without additional pressure on the budget beyond what's already been recommended to preserve the 4-5 class at family school, to create a mixed stage 2-3 class at family school with the 11 third graders who are already there, and integrating any second and third graders rising from Canalino or frankly beyond at the district, and allowing those 8 Canalino students to have a choice whether they want a mixed stage class or a single grade class at Canalino in the fourth grade that already exists there. And we have one unassigned teacher, although I'd prefer obviously that we maintain the GATE program because
Thank you.
that's been so critical
Thank you.
for our
Good
students.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Margolin. I have 2 children enrolled at the family school, and I'd like to share with you a bit about how we chose it, what our experience has been, and why we believe it's in the best interest of our community to keep the school. 3 years ago, as you just heard from my husband, we decided to move here from DC. I toured dozens of public and private schools from Woodland Hills to Santa Barbara. When I found this school, I knew I'd found what I'd been looking for, a small school with highly engaged teachers, a rich community of families, specific focus on whole child development, prioritizing social, emotional, and academic flourishing. We also love the infusion of music throughout the school day, the celebration of visual arts and theater, and the abundance of learning in and about nature. We're also looking for a school that provided academic excellence, and we found that here, scoring 9 out of 10 on great schools, 92%, outperforming 92% of other similar schools throughout the entire state, and rated number 1 in the district. We decided to move here so our children could attend the school. Having such a high-performing school in our town increases the value of everyone's home, increases the likelihood that families like us looking to relocate to the area will choose Carp, and that Carp residents starting families will choose to stay. We've experienced that these ratings stem from a unique and exceptional learning model it provides. The mixed-age classrooms at family school, facilitated by outstanding teachers specifically trained and with a wealth of experience in teaching mixed-age groups, allow several unique opportunities. Teachers know students over many years and teach them for more than 1 year, allowing individualized focus and learning plans. Children learn with students in alternating years in grades below and above them, giving them 3 cohorts of children with whom they build strong bonds. As they alternate into the older grades, they gain confidence in familiar and nurturing settings, and opportunity for leadership naturally emerges. This is a unique, highly successful model. A short-sighted decision to choose family school based on this year's budget restrictions will result in the long-term loss of choice for our community. We will lose a model for academic excellence and will likely lose many engaged families and high-performing students from the
Thank
public
you.
school system.
Thank you.
This is my son.
Okay. Turn on, make sure his mic is turned on. Okay.
My name is Harper Harrows. I am in the 5th grade and have attended the Carpinteria Family School for 3 years. It has been a great pleasure to me being there. I love that the teachers like a lot of the same things that I love. I was enrolled in forest schools all the way until I was in 2nd grade, so I love the wilderness and I really enjoyed that the teachers at family school share the same level of interest in nature as I do. During my 3 years there, I have experienced many fun things. The River Trail Project, new games, new friends, fun trail, field trips, and many more. Meanwhile, my sister Zuri still has 2.5 years to go in family school, and every day after school, she has come home with a big smile on her face and has been so joyful and eager to share about her day. I would hate for that to stop happening. It has been so fun to see all the work she has been doing and to hear the excitement as she tells us about it. I love this school with all my heart, and I bet there is something else you could do instead. I would do anything to keep family school, and it'd make me cry if it would be gone forever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Malik Barneche, and I'm in 3rd grade at Carpinteria Family School. I'm speaking to you today to share my perspectives regarding potential closures of my school and gate program due to budget cuts. I'm new this year to family school and have only lived in Carpinteria for less than 2 years. We moved here from Mexico. I love my school because it's a place where I made close friends that have made me feel welcome since my first day. This is my second school here in Carpinteria, and it's been easier to make friends at family school. I also have an amazing teacher who is very supportive and who makes learning fun. Another special thing that is unique of this school is that my parents get to be involved in my learning, and my mom can come often to organize activities at Family Friday. We also had a camping trip where almost all my classmates and their parents came. It was so much fun. I feel very good about my English now, and now that this school I go to has helped me adapt quickly. Last, I would love to keep the GATE program as it challenged me to explore my potential in a fun, interesting atmosphere so I can grow up and become an engineer just like my dad. I feel lucky to be a part of this cool program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Nikki Wilmore. Thank you for letting us speak today. We have been in family school for 2 years. We've been in Carpinteria for 10, and when we moved back 2 years ago, my daughter was struggling with debilitating anxiety, and we were constantly having challenges at schools with a lot of transition, teachers not really understanding her unique needs, and we found a solution for that with family school. The multi-level classroom and having teachers getting to interact with the children for 2 years has really helped us find the teacher understand solutions and understand the unique needs of those children. I know that she's not the only one struggling with that right now. And I think having outdoor opportunities and having highly engaged activities that the parents can participate in, it's allowed us to feel comfortable knowing the other families, and it's allowed her to have a level of comfort knowing not only the children an age above and an age below, but also knowing their parents too and feeling very safe in her community. I agree with the comments that Dave shared with alternative solutions. We have a model that's proven to work for 23 years, and I think it's brought so much value to the community. We chose this school when we moved back primarily for the high ratings that it had online, and we wanted to give our kids that opportunity. So I hope you'll really consider alternative options instead of closing family school.
My name is James, and I think family school is unique because every day I make new friends every day. Every year you're the little kid or big kid. When you're the little kids, the big kids help you. The big kids play with the little kids. The big kids sometimes play by themselves.
Thank you, James.
Good evening. Thank you, Superintendent Rigby and the board for taking the time to hear our feedback. My name is Jessica Petrillo, and I am the mother of a third grader at Carpinteria Family School and a TK student at Catalino. I want to sincerely thank Superintendent Rigby for meeting with the family school's parents to explain the budget reductions and the reasoning behind the proposed cuts. I truly appreciate her willingness to engage in these difficult conversations and acknowledge the tough decisions ahead. That's why I'm coming to you with a recommendation that meets the necessary budget cuts while maintaining the 2-3 class at family school. Eliminating the 2-3 class puts family school on a path towards closure, which would be a huge loss for our community. While it may seem like an easy cut with a retiring teacher, this decision is short-sighted. Instead of moving the 11 incoming CFS third graders into a newly formed split class at Catalino, I urge you to keep the split classes where they already work, at family school. The simple solution is to reassign a teacher to maintain the 2-3 class at family school and distribute the 8 Catalino fourth graders who need a class across family school and Catalino. The CFS parents and students have so many outreach ideas to support this change that I don't have time to share now. Family School thrives on the split class model. It consistently produces strong academic results, has deeply engaged families, and successfully prepares students for middle school. Closing it would reduce school choice, hurt enrollment, and weaken the community's connection to our schools. My family is also impacted by the loss of the GATE program, which serves kids with unique learning needs. My daughter loves school and will do fine, but largely because she's in family school. It's heartbreaking that students won't have this opportunity in the future. If GATE has to be cut, at least maintaining family school preserves an option for kids who need a more engaging and differentiated learning environment. I support family school because I believe in public education. My kids aren't in public school only because I can't afford private school. Even if I could, I'd still choose public. Family school offers something special that keeps families in the district. Cutting it may provide short-term savings,
Thank
and the
you.
long-term consequences will be far greater.
Thank you.
Good evening, Carpinteria School Board members. My name is Sylvia, and I am in 3rd grade at Carpinteria Family School. I also have a little brother in TK at Canalino. I'm speaking to you today about the importance of keeping family school and my recommendation you keep family school open. One of my favorite things about family school is Family Friday. It's really fun to have my parents come and be a part of my school and lead activities with me. Both of my grandmas have also came to Family Friday. I also like family school because there are 2 different grades in each class. When you're the younger grade, you can learn from the older kids. When you're the older grade, you can work on your teaching, helping and teaching skills with the younger kids. My teachers in family school are kind. I loved having Franny in K1, and I loved Jan in 2-3. Thank you for listening, taking the time to listen. I hope you decide to keep family school open so I can finish elementary school there, and my little brother can have the same experience.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Hi, my name is Dave, and I'm in kindergarten. And I would like the chance to go to family school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Autumn Fiore Palm, and I am the mother of a current 6th grader at CMS and 1st grader at Canalino. My oldest son, Elias, completed his entire elementary education at Carpinteria Family School, and my youngest son was in Mrs. Oda's K1 family school class last year. I've been very active in the life of Carpinteria Family School over the past 7 years, from being room parent for 5 years, organizing and volunteering for the Jogathon, helping in the classroom, developing and implementing with parents and teachers the Explorathon, which is a COVID time alternative to the Jogathon, where students and families were invited to find different landmarks around Carpinteria, encouraging outdoor learning, physical activity, and knowledge of our ecosystem and unique natural areas. I can speak to the benefits of Carpinteria Family School, the transformational relationships my children have built with fellow students and teachers, the confidence they have gained by having teachers who get to know them from the time they're in kindergarten, the arts and environmental education they've been taught, and the way that being a part of a small multi-age class prepared my older son for the successful transition to the middle school. But what I would like to do is suggest a possible solution to keeping Carpinteria Family School open within the budget constraints the district is facing next year. And my request would be this. would you put out a call to existing teachers in the district asking if anyone would want to teach the second, third combo class for family school next year? Then, if the budget increases for the 2026-2027 year, rehire a K-1 teacher to reinstate Carpinteria Family School to its full status.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elias Furry-Palm. I attended family school for half my life, and I was a GATE student from 3rd to 5th grade. And I would just like to say that family school was a great experience for me, and I really think that it should stay open because otherwise students and children who are in the elementary age wouldn't have the same opportunities open for them. And honestly, it was probably the best years of my life, and like I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the school and the experience. I have some friends who went to Catalino, and it just didn't sound like the same thing as family school. And I know many consider family school and Catalino to be the same thing because they're on the same campus, but it honestly isn't. They're very different. Like, what's the word? They're very different. Like experiences, and honestly, like if Catalino was solely on that campus, I don't think it would be the same thing, and I don't think you would have the same amount of enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever is next, please just come up to the podium and just keep going person after person. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Robin Bodwin, and I'm the parent of a kindergarten student at Carpinteria Family School. I was shocked to hear Superintendent Riggy's plan to close family school and discontinue the GATE program. First, I feel it's important to note that as a community-funded district, your revenue is not tied to enrollment. So the emphasis on budget conversations about declining enrollment seems to be a red herring that's used to justify budget mismanagement. You are using the public's misunderstanding of our funding model to imply that budget shortfalls are a product of enrollment. Putting aside the budget question and focusing on the health of the district, declining enrollment is a problem. If you are trying to manage the loss of students going to charter, private, and homeschool options, these decisions do exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be shouting from the rooftops that you have this great program called Family School that encourages parents to participate actively in their children's education without having to take on the burden of homeschooling. Parents in this district are looking for choice. They want their students to be inspired and engaged in their learning, and increasingly they are not finding what they are looking for in our public schools. I can tell you from conversations I've had with other families of young children that many are looking outside the public system. By killing both the GATE program and the family school, you're doing exactly the opposite of providing engaging programs and choices for how our children learn. You will only lose more students. You will lose many of the students who cannot afford, the population who will lose the most from the closure of the GATE program are the gifted children from underprivileged families. Those families who can afford it will either find a new school to provide enrichment in other ways. For students from low-income families, public school is their only avenue for intellectual growth and challenge, and those students are just as important as those on the opposite end of the spectrum. In trying to save a pittance, and $200,000 is a pittance, I have more to say, but you don't want to hear. Okay.
Good evening, board members and everyone present tonight. My name is Rachel Kent, and I'm a parent of first grader Caspian and TK Aurelian, both at Catalino School. Last year, Caspian was in Mrs. Oda's first K-1 family school class, and this year he's in Mrs. Balch's class with the other first grade family school kids. I'm speaking tonight in solidarity with the other family school parents, proposing to allow the second, third grade class in hopes to continue the CARP family school for next year. It's clear that there are inevitable budget cuts, and I would ask the board to reconsider the recommendation to dissolve the second, third grade class. If I could share one takeaway theme from my comment tonight, it would be the power and opportunity of public school choice. We are so lucky. Do you know how unique and rare it is to have a model like the Carp Family School in a public school district? 2 years ago at this time, as a first-time mother of a Lou Grant preschooler, I sat in a room full of other parents, hearing choices and preparing to make decisions about our little humans embarking on the next big milestone of life, kindergarten. We had the gift of a preschool that invited parents of various kindergarten programs to speak at our evening parenting class. I heard about Carp Family School, met other parents who sent their kids to the school, spoke with our preschool director about her knowledge of those schools and how they meshed with what she knew about our son. Then later I toured the family school and began to see a path forward through the unknowns and my anxiety of navigating through the available options. Without knowing how this power and opportunity of family school would unfold, we took the chance and decided as a family, we know what's right this year in this moment. And last year, our time at family school was everything we hoped for and more. We received a built-in community of like-minded parents, eager to volunteer and to be hands-on with our child's education, creating spaces for them to explore beyond the four walls of the building. I would like to ask you to preserve the gift we have in Carp Family School.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Scott Lancet. My son and daughter went through family school years ago. They absolutely thrived from their ability to navigate through the world. Both of them, my daughter graduated cum laude in a double major from UC Berkeley. My son is now in the world's foremost data science program at UC Berkeley. There's a lot more that they've accomplished, but what I've noticed is who they are as people. They participate, they foster community wherever they go. They're not afraid to be a part of things. They know how to connect to people of all kinds of backgrounds and histories and styles. They're capable of being full participants in this world, and they care. I think when you're balancing budgets, you need to think very carefully about whether or not you're balancing people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aram Freeman. I'm a father of a fourth grader in family school currently, Eden. And first of all, before I make my off-the-cuff remark, she, as I quote, says, "Family school is really great," unquote. I would like to second those feelings and give a little more detail in that she's been a family school student from kindergarten in COVID straight through and has benefited greatly in more ways than I can mention, a lot of which have been mentioned prior. And I was just made aware of this situation recently by my daughter, because word has been going around. I just found out about the gate situation. She's also a member of that program and is thriving under that situation as well. I'd like to echo the sentiment and the belief that there is a way forward, even if we do not currently see it at this moment. I think in any difficult situation, we can work together and find a solution. Maybe one that is not currently on the table. I think to benefit our future generations is probably the most important thing we can do as stewards of our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ryan Morrill. I want to thank the board for hearing everything that we've had to say tonight. And I want to thank all the families, school parents and children who have got up and spoke in front of you as well. It's not an easy thing to come up in front of people and speak publicly. I'd just like to start by saying I'm Carpinteria, born and raised. My family's been here since the late 70s, and I'm a product of the Carpinteria Unified School District. I'm still here, and I think that that is what everyone here wants, is to build community, and I think that that's really what family school does, is it builds community, and it keeps community here. And if we can't have community at our school and we just go through the motions, we're losing a little bit of CARP. And I think it's really important to take the ideals that family school stands for, community, family involvement, and being exposed to the students' families that they normally wouldn't get exposed to. On Family Friday in particular, one of the students mentioned the camp out. The camp out's a great opportunity for bonding outside of the school. But back to the school, I think that it's building community, and that's really what we need here in Carpinteria to keep our town carp. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Pepper Binkley. We're new to the district. We made a very quick snap decision to move here after my husband got a job in Thousand Oaks and looked up and down between Thousand Oaks and Santa Barbara for the right place for our family, and landed here partially because of the family school. So my daughter's in the DLI program. She's in first grade. She's thriving. She loves it. She loves the greater Catalina community. My son is like a more sensitive creature, and last year was in a class of 7 with 2 teachers when we lived on an island. When he turned around, like the second or third day of school, he came back and said, "Mama, there are 2 more tables of children in the room than I realized." And this is at family school. So family school has provided a space for him to be in a mixed age classroom, which is what he was used to last year, and to be seen in a space where oftentimes when he goes out into the greater Catalina campus, he feels at sea. It feels huge to him. The mixed age classroom is intentional. It's a space where the teachers and the students get to know each other over a couple of years. And not only that, when they move into the next class, they get to go back and check in with their old teachers. So it's a place where kids are learning in a different way. So the public school system provides one way, usually, the traditional elementary. The mixed age classroom, over the course of 2 years, provides a space for the students to grow and learn in a different way. It's an alternative, and it's an alternative I hope that you'll preserve.
Thank you. Take your time, Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Lee Collins. I teach at Carpinteria Family School. And I love all of you. I hope you all take it to heart to consider all options. I really do. Absolutely adore what I love. And David, the other day in our meeting with Superintendent Rigby, I said, I've given so much. It's 22 years. And David reminded me, you've received so much. And all of us have. We've sang you songs, we've performed plays. But it's about the community. It really is, and we're all doing this together. And I invite you to please consider all the options out there. And I love and adore what I do, and I'm hoping I can keep doing it for all of you. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Lori.
Hi there. I'm here to remind you that The people behind me are our community, our children, that our teachers are currently growing and making these amazing relationships and love of education. And you are devaluing them by not giving them what they need to survive and stay in our district to continue building these relationships. 2 weeks ago, Angel spoke. He is a poised young man ready for the world because his parents put him in Carp, and the teachers in Carpinteria have nurtured him along with his family and the team of support to turn him into the next future leader that we need. You need to value all the parents' opinions of the teachers that they have now just said are amazing human beings that are developing lifelong learners, and give them their living wage and health benefits, because if you don't help them with the benefits, you're effectively giving them no increase. I want to challenge you. When was the last time you were in a special education classroom for more than 1 hour and watched those amazing humans work those magic with multi-age, multifunctional, and adults in the room? Or attended a high school science class where kids are mixing formulas and you're praying to God they do not blow up the school? Or in a junior high with raging hormones and spent time not in your child's classroom, but other children's classroom more than an hour and left a note that said, "Oh my God, you're amazing. Thank you for doing your job." If you haven't, you're not doing your job as our board members, and you need to be done. Because you need to be around and visible. You need to have time in our community. I know your kids go here, but what are you doing to support these kids, my kids, who I need to turn into future leaders like that kid? Take care of our teachers so they can take care of our kids and themselves, especially during cold and flu season. Do it now. Settle the lawsuits.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I serve as the employee union president in Carpinteria Unified School District and deliver the following comments on behalf of district employees who elected both myself and the members of our union leadership team to share their experiences, questions, and concerns. Why were educators and community members marching downtown on Friday? Because contract negotiations remain at impasse, and throughout, the district has demonstrated a utter lack of commitment to the process, even refusing to join employee union leadership at any of the scheduled mediation sessions. Nonetheless, employees still seek a reasonable good faith agreement that includes the most basic safety improvements for students and employees, that defends employee health care, a pillar of economic stability that brings similar stability to our students. We're focused on meaningful salary increases as well to relieve the rapidly rising cost of living increases that threaten to further destabilize the workforce. And importantly, we seek an agreement that includes contingency language. We seek an agreement that anticipates and prepares for future economic uncertainties and positions both employees and district officials to be rowing in the same direction instead of arguing. In 20 months, CUSD's best offer remains 2%. 2% for teachers and 2.5% for district support staff, and this while administrators gave themselves 2 salary increases during the same period working directly, while those working directly with the students and families received none. Despite robust property tax revenues, CUSD continues to prioritize reckless administrative spending while underfunding essential employee positions and programs like the GATE and family school programs that you're talking about cutting right now. This is further evidenced in CUSD's annual audit released in December, which confirmed that CUSD underpaid employees by a staggering $3.5+ million last year. $3.5 million is equivalent to a 17% pay increase for all district employees, but it could also be used to maintain obviously beneficial programs. Thank you.
Let me translate briefly Jake Hodgner's comment. Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. This is what he said in Spanish. Mi nombre es Jay Hodgner. Soy el presidente del sindicato. Estos comentarios representan a los maestros y empleados que cada año me eligen a mí y a los miembros del sindicato. Muchos vieron la marcha del viernes pasado de los maestros, estudiantes y comunidad en las 4 esquinas de la avenida Carpinteria y Linden. Buscamos un acuerdo razonable en cuanto a mejorías en seguridad de los empleados, de estudiantes y sus familias. Buscamos un acuerdo que defienda el cuidado de la salud. Buscamos un salario que mejore la presión económica al alto costo de vida, que desestabiliza la fuerza laboral. Buscamos un contrato que anticipe y prepare para futuras presiones económicas. Las declaraciones del Consejo Escolar de un ofrecimiento alto salarial son incorrectas. La oferta sigue siendo 2% para maestros y 2,5% para el equipo de apoyo. La propia auditoría del distrito 2023-2024 confirmó que el distrito no beneficia a los empleados gastando $3,5 millones en gastos legales. Estos 3,5 millones faltantes es lo equivalente a un aumento del 17% de todos los empleados del distrito. Esto crea una amenaza seria a una educación de calidad. El sindicato espera evitar la huelga que afectaría el aprendizaje. That's his comment. Now I would like to provide my own
Okay.
public comment.
Please restart the clock for his personal comment. Thank you.
Okay, my own. 2 parts. Okay, first part. I thank all the teachers. Would like to thank Superintendent Ruby, the board, for all the kids that went to grammar school, middle school, high school, and attended City College. That's good. 50% of graduates go to City College and then transfer. That's good. That's due to the promise. For 2 years, there are no fees paid. And later on, they transfer to the UC system, transfer to private colleges, UC Berkeley, for example, or Stanford, Yale, MIT, Columbia, Harvard. And they're now the teachers, the professionals that we know, lawyers, teachers, doctors, accountants. That's very good. Now, the other side is a healthy budget will improve teacher salaries, student programs, and the quality of life. The current problem is that you're spending millions on legal fees. That cannot happen. That's not right. You're misusing the community's money. That you handed down that budget, and that money should be spent on students and teachers, not on attorneys, not. Plus, the march. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Susan Bacon-Fredrickson. I teach at Aliso. And I just wanted to reiterate, I was here in January speaking to you all, basically saying that our teachers support our union. And as you could see, if you were aware of the march on Friday, that there were approximately 100 employees from Aliso, Carpinteria, the middle school and the high school, all very frustrated with the fact that our union, we do support our union. Our union represents us. We want the district to negotiate with our union in good faith. We want the district to end the impasse. We really, property taxes continue to go up. Property values continue to go up. There should be a solution where we're able to compensate, interact fairly with our union and compensate our teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Crystal Germanetti. I'm a second generation born and raised Carpinteria. I'm also a former CUSD and GATE student of the district, and I also have family members, both former and current, in the district as well. So the issues being raised are very personal to me. I'm also a master's level clinician in mental health, so I have a unique perspective to offer on this. I wanted to discuss tonight the topics of social awareness and impact, paraphrasing a passage by clinician and author Dr. Alexander Katehakas. We repress our natural compassion, we blind ourselves to the humanity of those we encounter and choose to see as merely cogs in a wheel. This causes our objectification to rebound onto us, leaving us feeling disconnected. For healthy transformation is possible only through shared humanity, treating others as fellow humans personally by imagining how we'd like to be treated in their place humanizes our whole being and invites unexpected breakthroughs. If you are truly listening to all the voices speaking up, you will hear a collective fear, stress, and financial burden. All the while, administration has received 2 back-to-back raises, while the certified and classified employees have received none since the end of the 2023 school year. Finally, I want to end on the notion of impact that this is all having. Paraphrasing again, we influence our world and one another through our words and actions. The lasting impact of our actions on others or our surroundings can be monumental or minuscule, known to us or not. So I implore each and every school board member to consider the impact your actions and words have on district employees, students, and their families, and try to reconcile that with the impact that each of you intended to make when you decided to join the board originally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Maddie Maple. You guys already know me, and for some of the family school parents who didn't know me, I started at family school. So I got my start in the district actually teaching K-1 at family school. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight at all, but hearing all of these parents, I 100% agree with them. Coming from family school, I couldn't agree more that the option for choice is so essential. But what I hate to tell family at large is that if we are not compensating our teachers fairly, we cannot continue choices of programs of choice. I know it personally, almost every single teacher that I know who isn't married, who isn't a dual income household, has at least 2 jobs. And I know my position where I am teaching 4 sections of art, Art 1, Art 2, Art Honors, Art AP, in every single classroom, en 2 idiomas a la misma vez. You are not gonna find another one of me again. And I can go to many other districts and get paid much more money for much less work. I'm here because I want to be, because I love this community, I love your guys as kids, and that's why I'm here. And I would really wish that you guys would consider, as mentioned before, if our budget's not based on declining student enrollment, then our declining student enrollment might be based on the mismanagement of our budget.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julie Rubio Shamblin, and I am born and raised in Carpinteria. That's my big flex in life, honestly, everywhere I go. I start with that line, so it's something that's really near and dear to my heart. I also, born and raised here, went through Carpinteria Unified School District. I'd like to share a poem that I created. It's titled, "Is This Really How We Do Things in Carpinteria?" Is this really how we do things in Carpinteria? Where those who teach, who guide, who care are forced to fight for what is fair, while empty promises fill the air. Is this really how we do things in Carpinteria, where audits expose the district's neglect, yet still no progress, no respect, no raises, no contract, just delays? How long must we live this way? Born and raised in this hometown space, so much magical history in this place. Yet morale has never felt so low. Such a disgrace. How far will this go? The law is clear, yet here we stand, underpaid with empty hands. California Ed's code says invest, but CUSD gives us less and less. Is this really how we do things in Carpinteria, where legal fees climb sky high, yet those who lift our students up are left behind, left asking why? Teachers are exhausted, worn too thin, many already searching where to begin again. How many more will pack and leave? But in the end, it's the students who grieve. Why don't you think I deserve what is fair? Why ignore my loyalty, my years of care? I've given my heart to this town, to these kids, yet your appreciation is silenced instead. Union leaders stand to fight to keep our classrooms strong and bright. They seek solutions, not divide, yet still they're met with closed-door pride. A strike would tear this town apart, disrupt the learning, break our hearts. Yet when you push good teachers down, how long before they leave this town?
Thank you. Any further public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, if you'd like to stay, obviously you're welcome to. Otherwise, we're gonna carry on and feel free to leave either way. Okay, we are moving on to C4, approval of the minutes. Public comment on C4. Oh, sorry. C4 approval, yeah, no.
There are two
Yeah.
approvals of the minutes this time. Please.
Back to 3.
Thank you. So let the minutes show that work conducted during the January 16th special board meeting resulted in the 25-26 CUSD budget presentation on January 28th. Let the minutes show that while district officials determined what services would be cut, they made these decisions without the inclusion of a single employee representative, teacher, or support staff at the table. Let the minutes show that Superintendent Rigby has since confirmed that due to CUSD's extraordinary legal expenses in the last 2 years, which include $2.5 million in expenditures and another $1 million in accrued debt due shortly, CUSD will now be making several cuts to student-centered programs and resources. Let the minutes show that although district officials stated they have targeted cuts far from the classroom as far as possible, the CUSD intends to cut funding for all elementary field trips, to reduce 10 instructional assistants and 4 full-time teachers, driving up class sizes and reducing direct academic support for at-risk special ed, EL, and migrant students, to cut the elementary GATE program. It won't be reduced, it will be removed altogether. And CFS, which is already receiving 44% less revenue per pupil funding than the state average, and they're going to experience even further programmatic erosions if they even remain open. Yet from the budget study session, there was no mention of reductions of district office staff or administrators, which have reached all-time highs, even though student enrollment is at a 20-year low. While CUSD invests approximately 20 to 30% less than the state average for per pupil spending, and approximately 5% more on administrative salaries, the district does not intend to make any cuts to administration. Instead, the 2025 budget maintains the 2 salary increases given to district administrators during the 20-month period employees have received 0. And let the minutes show that CUSD is considering just a 15% reduction in legal fees, which will ensure the district intends to spend no less than $1 million in legal fees in 25-26, a figure still 7 times more than what you inherited when you arrived, Ms. Rigby. In short, let the minutes show that the 25-26 budget priorities, Ms. Rigby and our board's obsession with continued retaliatory, discriminatory, disciplinary attacks against elected employee leaders are all baked into that budget, all the while cutting critical student-centered programs and resources. Finally, let the minutes show that when the decisions of the January 16th board meeting were shared with the community, not a single board member asked Superintendent Rigby how she prioritized CUSD's legal attacks over the very programs, GATE, Carpinteria Family School, the things you heard the community talking about so dearly this evening, that have demonstrably proven
Thank
to
you.
have
Your
a
time is
positive
up.
impact on student achievement. And
Your time is up.
Mr. Delgado will translate kindly. Thank you.
Thank you, Rogelio Delgado. Esa es la traducción. Que los minutos muestren que el distrito determinó qué servicios y qué áreas se iban a recortar sin la inclusión de ningún representante de los empleados ni de ningún maestro. Que los minutos muestren que la superintendente ha confirmado que debido a los tremendos gastos legales, $3,5 millones y en deudas, los últimos 2 años el distrito recortará varios programas estudiantiles y recursos. Que los minutos muestren que aunque los oficiales del distrito digan que no despedirán a maestros, sí recortarán los viajes de paseos a escuelas primarias. Sí, recortarán a 10 asistentes de maestros y a 4 maestros de tiempo completo. Además, que los minutos muestren que el programa GATE se va a remover. Que los minutos muestren que la escuela Family School recibirá más daño porque recibe el 44% menos por estudiante que el problema estatal. La meta, la intención es hacer que la Family School desaparezca. Que los minutos muestren que en la sesión de estudio del presupuesto no hubo mención de rebajas de personal administrativo, pese a que la asistencia estudiantil es la más baja en 25 años. Que los minutos muestren que aunque el distrito considera reducir 15% en gastos legales, gastará no menos de $1 millón, una cantidad 6 veces mayor a la de la superintendente. Gracias.
Thank you. Any further public comments on the minutes? Okay. May I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
We gotta say.
Oh, the minutes of January 16th, 2025 and January 28th, 2025.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh, second. Yeah, we need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Public comment on approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Actually, hang on.
Yes.
I have, I do need to strike the Aliso presentation. So just note that any motion when it comes will be with the removal of the Aliso school presentation. Public comment on the
With
agenda
all
and consent
respect,
agenda.
you also had the minutes of the January 28th meeting that you haven't addressed yet?
I took.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did the minutes. I said we're having public comment on approval of the minutes.
So you covered January 16th is what you'd stated.
I didn't state a date. I said the approval of the minutes.
Okay, so this is
So
part
for
of the
A and
reduced
B.
public comment time, is that correct?
Yes. So right now we are on C5, approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
The consent agenda, as with the rest of the board meeting, is governed by the Brown Act, and the Brown Act is designed to prevent the advancement of public business without transparency. It's designed to provide members of the community an opportunity to more thoroughly consider details associated with matters of district business before those matters are quickly processed through the consent agenda. But for items specified on the closed session agenda, the Brown Act prohibits district officials from reaching 100% consensus decisions behind closed doors. The way you're handling now every item on the board agenda is now like the consent agenda, only giving members of the community 3 minutes to comment, regardless of whether there's 10, 15, 3, or 2 items on the agenda under that item. Anyhow, setting aside our concerns associated with the district's Brown Act violations, which are routine, employees strongly support item 1 and 2. Both are field trip requests for elementary and secondary students. These are exactly the types of expenditures that CUSD intends to cut next year, while hoping that private organizations can and will fund these out of the blue. Employees recognize some benefit to item 3, the approval of the agreement between CUSD and Cal State Channel Islands. The agreement places student teachers with master teachers in our district for the next 3 years. Although some benefit to item 3 is recognized, there remains a significant concern on how CUSD will use these student teachers and how the district students future instruction will be undermined and their achievement jeopardized. We've already heard of significant concerns and seen significant concerns associated with the misuse and misassignment of student teachers in both the teaching and learning environment and even when providing confidential counseling services. And we've asked the board to demand answers to these concerns, where CUSD understaffs classrooms with those not credentialed or capable of delivering high quality instruction. But this is the price we pay when we drive teachers and support staff out of the district for the variety of reasons, including the workplace culture, the abusive management from Ms. Rigby and some of her select leaders, as well as the problems with compensation. Employees asked the board to place item 6 on hold and not approve the purchase of iPads to be used for the CHS outreach program just yet. It is not that we believe the students don't need those resources, but rather CMS is in the process of removing all such devices from CMS students. That was announced by Ms. Pursoon just the other day. Rather than buying all new devices at the cost of approximately gosh knows what, I believe it's $8,500 for these high school devices. Perhaps CUSD should consider reusing some of the hundreds of handheld devices that have already been invested in and are now being removed from middle school students.
Any further public comment on approval of the agenda and consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. May I get I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda while striking E3, the Aliso presentation.
All right, I'll second that.
Roll call, thanks.
Yeah. Eric.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
I'm aye.
Okay, we are moving on to our student representative report with Angel.
Hello. For those of you who...
Sorry, apologies. Public comment on the student representatives report, on all the reports on E. Public comment on E, public interest reports and presentations. If you'd like to make public comment on any of the items under E, please step up to the podium at this time to do so. Sorry, Angel.
With only 3 minutes, we'll have to focus on just one of the several topics that are under E. Property tax presentation. When will the district's budget take into account the impact of Property 19 property tax valuation increases? And why did CUSD use county-wide property tax averages as a basis for future tax projections instead of the more realistic property tax revenues predicted for Carpinteria alone, which are predicted to be higher? These decisions further demonstrate the district's long pattern of under-projecting future revenues while over-projecting future expenditures. And for this reason, employees continue to encourage the inclusion of a contingency formula to resolve our negotiation impasse. We don't need to argue over the accuracy of the district's projections as long as we have prepared for the day when the actual dollars and cents are counted and arrive. And when that day comes, if contingency plans are in place, we will either win together or lose together based on the actual dollars we receive. Just imagine everyone rowing in the same direction versus the same old management through conflict approach, which has become the hallmark of this current district leadership team. For those unaware, property taxes are the primary revenue source for CUSD because we are a basic aid district. The CUSD receives the majority of its revenues from local property taxes. Occurs is actually an enormous benefit to CUSD. We sit in the top 4% of the most robustly funded TK through 12 districts in the state. Here's a point of comparison. Over the last 6 years, 96% of districts in the state received primary funding pegged to the state COLA, and that value that they received was 21.8% over a 6-year period. However, CUSD, a basic aid district, received 35.22% in revenue increases for the same 6-year period, 13.5% more than 96% of the districts in the state. In school year 1920, 96% of the districts received 3.26, and we received 5.04. In 2021, when they received 0 COLA, we received 5.6 in revenue increases. In 21-22, when they received 96% of the districts in the state received 2.7, we received 5.14. And in the current year, for example, 24-25, when 96% of the districts in the state received just over 1%, we received over 5%. Again, in the last 6 years, CUSD received 35.22 in property tax-based revenue increases, while everyone else, 96% of the rest, received just 21.8. Yet district officials are attempting to justify CUSD's inability to effectively manage finances.
Thank you. Your time
It
is
is
up.
ridiculous.
Your time is
Thank
up.
you.
Any further public comment?
Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. It's about the superintendent's report. Students are not doing as good as official reports indicates. For example, students at Canalino are reading only at 40%. Aliso, only 4% met the grade level standards. Special education, even lower, much, much lower. Students who are behind on test scores have a hard time getting into the UC system. That's a fact. Students are not to blame. It's the district's way of handling academics. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to, I'm not sure if there was some confusion, but in the STAR reading assessment, that's the grade level, that number. It's not a percentage, unless I misunderstood what. So, anyways, any further public comment on E? Okay. We will now move to our student representative report with Angel. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Angel Pineda. For those of you who don't know me in this room, I'm a Carpinteria High School senior, and I'm also the senior class president, doing this on my own time. So, for my student report, please join me in congratulating our winter teams who are going to the playoffs for their individual sports. With girls soccer, they're playing St. Monica Prep at home tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 p.m. The winner will play on Friday against the winner of Sugar Storm versus Malibu. Boys basketball plays at Bishop Garcia Diego at the Brick House on Wednesday at 7 p.m. The winner will play on Friday against the winner of Paloma Valley versus Santa Clarita Christian. Girls basketball plays at Santa Ana on Thursday at 7 p.m. The winner will play on Saturday against the winner of Charter Oaks versus Bell Gardens. Today is also the spring athletics parent meeting at 6 in the cafeteria at Carpinteria High School. On January 29th and 30th, Carpinteria High School hosted parents and students of the incoming 9th grade parents. Parents and students were able to learn about the many programs offered at Carpinteria High School and were able to hear about Carpinteria High School students from the 12th grade panel. ASB also had a successful student rally on Thursday of last week to celebrate the successes of all winter sports. I also want to congratulate Miss Emily Garcia, the FFA advisor, and our amazing FFA team for their outstanding performances on Saturday, February 8th at Santa Paula High School. Carpinteria FFA is part of the Ventura section of agriculture schools, which include Fillmore, Ventura, Nordhoff, Camarillo, Santa Paula, and Ventura. On Saturday, the Ventura section hosted a public speaking contest event consisting of 7 categories: the creed in Spanish, impromptu, prepared public speaking, extemporaneous public speaking, and job interview. Out of those 7 categories, we had a winner in 4 of them. 9 of those students will be able to compete in the next competition in early March in King City, representing the Ventura section. Don't forget, this Friday, February 14th, is Lincoln's birthday, and Monday, February 17th, is President's Day, which are days off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angel. Appreciate that. Any comments from the board for Angel's report?
Are you part of that team?
Yes, I placed first place in the extemporaneous public speaking
Yes,
competition.
you did.
That
Congratulations.
doesn't surprise me at all.
We're proud of you.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to begin with appreciation, and I'd like to recognize our school counselors for supporting our students, staff, and families throughout the school year. Rebecca Carlisle is at Aliso Summerlin. Shanna Hargett and Patricia Humbles are at Canalino and Family School. Megan Kruk and Stephanie Stahl at the middle school. And Julie Bravo, Alfredo Martinez, and Marla Stoops at the high school. National School Counseling Week is February 3rd through the 7th, and it focuses public attention on the unique contribution of school counselors within the U.S. school systems. The theme is School Counseling, Helping Students Thrive. National School Counseling Week, presented by ASCA, highlights the tremendous impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve school success. My next item is elementary reading and math progress. And you'll see that it's measured by the STAR Reading Assessment, and it is presented by grade levels. So at 3rd grade, at this time of year, we expect all our students to be reading at 3.6 and math at 3.6. At 4th grade, it's 4.6, 5th grade, 5.6. So we're pleased to report that more than 60% of our elementary students are performing at grade level or higher in both math and reading, as measured by the first semester STAR Reading and Math assessments. Our next item is regarding the FCMAT report. That's Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. They've published Childhood Sexual Assault, Fiscal Implications for California Public Agencies on January 31st, outlining the fiscal challenges that California school districts and public agencies are now facing since the passage of AB 218, which is the Child Victims Act. It was passed in 2019. Signed by Governor Newsom, this bill changed the statute of limitations for civil claims of childhood sexual assault, and California school districts, community colleges, cities, counties, and other public agencies have been significantly impacted. The report reviews the financial burdens and fiscal impacts on these agencies and also includes recommendations for future funding and financing mechanism. CUSD has 4 uninsured AB 218 claims from the 1970s that will go to trial next year. Our next item is accreditation review at the high school. Carpinteria High School has been engaged in a comprehensive 2-year self-study process in preparation for an upcoming accreditation review. This process involved a thorough examination of various aspects of school life, including gathering valuable insights from all members of the school community, examining student academic performance, attendance, and other relevant data, assessing the effectiveness of various programs and services offered by the school, and identifying areas of excellence and areas where further improvement is needed. The culmination of this self-study will be a full site visit by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges on March 10th through the 12th. Our next item is about our CHS students who are very excited about the 24-25 mock trial program at Carpinteria High School. The mock trial team consists of 22 students led by CHS teacher advisors Peter Cotty and Trevor Orlando and attorney coach Mary Ann Weiss Esquire. The county competition will be held at Santa Barbara Superior Courthouse on February 22nd. E-bike and bike safety. We have seen an increase in student riders on bikes and e-bikes without helmets at both the middle school and the high school. This is a huge safety risk, and parents need to require their students to wear a helmet before permitting this bike riding. The CHP has excellent resources on e-bike and bike safety, and there's a website that they can link to. Fall 2025 TK and K registration. Our information meeting will be held on Thursday, February 20th at Canalino School, 5:15 for the English session, 6 o'clock for the Spanish session. Online registration begins on March 1st for all students who will be 5 years old on or before September 1st for kindergarten. And then for all those students who are 4 years old and will have their 5th birthday by September 1st, 2026, they can register for transitional kindergarten. And then our last item is Measure U. The DSA has received the design documents from our architect, Robert Robles, for the new TKK building at Aliso. And once we have DSA approval, we will begin the process for selecting the contractor. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, we are moving on to our property tax presentation. We have Trevor Lysick, CPA, Advanced Revenue and Tax Administration with Santa Barbara County Auditor Controller's Office to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Trevor.
evening. Sure. Oh, thank you. Oh, very good. Okay. Good evening, Chair Diamond, board members, Superintendent. Superintendent's office asked me to come down here and give a presentation. I know there's at least one new member here, so I've kept a lot of the background information that we've had before. I'll try and go through it pretty quickly in the interest of your time, but feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast, ask any questions you might have. As announced, my name is Trevor Lysick. I'm the Division Chief for the Advanced Revenue and Tax Administration Division of the Auditor Controller's Office, and with me is Ed Price, the Assistant Auditor Controller. We both work for Betsy M. Schaefer, the elected Auditor Controller. And so, let's see if I can work this. We're going to go through a little bit of overview on how the property tax process works and some of the components of it. And then I know there were questions about revenue and revenue growth, so we'll eventually get to that. Everyone likes to talk about Prop 19 these days, so have a little bit on that, and then see if you guys have any questions. So first of all, this is like a 30,000-foot view of the process. You know, the process is really driven by property owners. We buy and sell properties all the time and, you know, start new businesses, maybe put an addition on the back of the house, so forth. This changes, this triggers reassessment of the property. So as those things happen, the assessor collects that information through various channels, and they go about assessing or reassessing the value of those properties. When that data is sent to us, we then extend the roll. That is, multiply the value times the appropriate tax rate. And then, as you can see on the right-hand side of that graph, we do get information, data from various schools and special districts with fixed charges. Those are special assessments that are added onto the property tax bill. We forward that to the tax collector, who puts it on their website and mails you out your tax bill, and then which you promptly pay because you love to pay your taxes. And that comes back to the treasurer tax collector. They send that back to us, and then it's our job to divvy that money up to you all and the rest of the districts and the cities and everybody else in the county, as well as the county general fund. So there's I'm not going to go through every detail here, but the basic timeline is January 1st is the lien date each year, and we value properties based on what is the value on that date. And so January 1st starts the assessment process for the assessor. They're catching up, and so right now during this period they are catching up on properties that have transferred ownership, new businesses that have started, and new construction that has occurred. And they're obligated to turn over that assessment roll to our office by June 30th. So that's what's going on right now. And then the first thing we do when we get that is we start working on the unsecured roll, and this is businesses, planes, boats, and we assess those, get the bills out as soon as we can towards the end of July, and those are due in August. By about August 10th, we combine the local secured roll, so this is real property, along with the state-assessed utilities. And so these are things like PG&E, telecom, cell towers, a variety of things that there's many properties, and we wouldn't want to send out 1,000 bills for, a pipeline or power lines coming through. So the state assesses that in a unified way, so we call it the unitary roll, and they send us one value for the county. So we incorporate that in with the secured roll, and it's built, so there's the local secured roll, our properties here, as well as the state assessed properties. We put those together. That's what we call the equalized roll, and that's what ultimately ends up in the annual secured tax bill. We also, as I said, add the fixed charges onto that. During August, we're calculating the bond tax rates primarily. Typically, the Board of Supervisors approves that by about the beginning of September. Also during that time, we're coming up with revenue estimates for you all and other districts and cities throughout the county. And then the tax bills go out by October, and we collect those. As you probably know, your tax bills are delinquent if not paid by December 10th. And the second installment on April 10th. So under Prop 13, there's really four key provisions to that. The first one is a basic 1% tax rate for the state, or properties can't exceed the 1%. There's tax roll maintenance, so the initial base started with the 75, 76 values, and that gets increased every year, what the assessor calls factoring those properties up. So that increase can't exceed 2% or the lesser of 2% or CPI each year, unless there is a new construction or a transfer of the property. And let's see, if to increase any taxes at a state level, there needs to be a 2/3 vote. And if there are local taxes or assessments, those increases need to be approved by 2/3 vote of the electorate. There are some provisions for school bonds where it can pass with 55% if certain conditions are met. And there are different tax rolls. There's the secured roll and the unitary roll, which we discussed earlier. There's two installments, delinquent December 10th and April 10th. There's a supplemental roll. So when properties are transferred during the year or there's new construction, that value will be assessed and tax charges assessed for that remaining portion of the year. And if we're already past the lien date, and so the value is determined for the upcoming year, we'll also send out a tax bill for that increase in value for the upcoming years. And that's why that bullet point there that you might have two bills depending on the event date. There's also the unsecured roll, which is a single installment due on August 31st. And then tax administration, basically we calculate those levies and essentially create the bills each year as new construction comes in, or as the assessor discovers any corrections that they need to make, which can result in increased tax bills, but also result in refunds. We're processing those throughout the year. And then as the money is collected, each quarter, we distribute that money out to the cities, the school districts, special districts throughout the county, as well as at other times for cash flow purposes, we'll do estimated distributions. So you'll see those, for example, in November and December, whereas otherwise we're doing the actual distributions following September 30th and December 31st and so forth. And then there's various reporting that we have to do with. You guys are probably familiar with a basic tax bill, and those values appear up towards the top. You see what the taxes that are calculated sort of in the middle, and you can see the breakdown of the basic 1% tax, the various school bonds that are associated with a bill. This one's not from your district. And fixed charges added on there as well. And just go through there. Shortly after Prop 13 passed in 1978, Assembly Bill 8, that we just shortly refer to as AB 8, tried to create a mechanism for distributing the taxes, and it was based on the 1978-79 revenue amounts that various districts got. So if you were inefficient, spent a lot of money, had a huge budget based on the old system, you had a higher revenue amount at that time. If you were more efficient, it was lower. You're kind of stuck with that lower revenue amount. That has then factored forward all the way to present based on various changes. It introduced the concept of tax rate areas, which you can think of as just all the overlapping areas of various, so you have cities, school districts, sanitation districts, fire districts, all these little districts that overlap, and every one of those little spaces in between is a tax rate area. Essentially, it's comprised of the various tax rates allocable to each one of those districts, and that's how we come up with that's how we split the money, that basic 1% tax money that's received. And it ties the aim is to tie the allocation of the property taxes to the assessed value based on that area. So, and because of that, you can see growth determined in those areas. It's based on the actual growth of property value within those specific tax rate areas. And what we do as we identify the growth within those within the tax rate areas, we then sum up the allocable amount of revenue in each area by jurisdiction. So say your school district, and then that becomes the amount of the incremental additional revenue for your district, and then we come up with AB8 factors, which we then use to apply to all the taxes that are received in the county. Was there a question?
Yeah. Is there a assigned rate? So in these tax rate areas, what percentage of that revenue is assigned to the school district?
To Carp Unified?
Carp, yeah. I'm just so like, I mean, the area is broken up into a number of different special districts, right? But generally, I know we share the revenue with the fire, and Carp Summerlin Fire and the school district more or less are a similar area, geographic area. And I'm just curious, because I've been looking, and I know the rates, the applied rate varies from county to county of how much, like the revenue derived, total revenue, 1% revenue of the assessed, the ad valorem tax. What percentage of that is assigned to the school district, or does the school district get?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that percentage off the top of my head. In fact, I was sitting back here waiting, going, I should have grabbed that number there for the presentation.
That's a good number for you to have had.
And I didn't. What I can tell you is, again, based on the revenue that the district received, and this is compared to all of the other governmental entities in general, districts, cities, and so forth, what was received back in 1978-79, that as a portion of the whole, an allocation percentages were developed at that time. And so within a tax rate area, there is a percent that would say, so say if in this particular location right here, if we were in a tax rate area that had the city of Carp, Carp Summerlin Fire, Carp San, and the school district, let's say, each one of those is assigned a percentage of allocation, and that remains constant. And then each year when there is growth of property values within that area, that percentage is applied to the amount of growth, and that's added to last year's revenue. And then that's taken, let's say, if this school district spans across half a dozen different tax rate areas, that amount of incremental revenue for each one of those areas are summed up to find out what the incremental revenue is, added to prior year's revenue, and then that amount as taken as a whole for the entire county tax levy is then, that's where we get that factor that we then apportion the rates. I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but I can get it back to you.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could. I've been, it's really difficult. I mean, it's hard to find the number anywhere online, but what I've been able to kind of derive is that it's anywhere from 54 to 57% of the tax rate area revenue gets assigned to the schools, and I know that varies. But that's, am I in the ballpark there?
Well, that's sort of a different thing, and I actually do have a slide that sort of identifies that. There's a confusing mix of percentages and factors that go into it. So what I'm speaking of is a factor that we derive so that every dollar that comes into the county treasury as collected taxes is then apportioned out. So we take everything from here to Santa Maria and it gets dumped in a bucket. Well, actually several buckets. But then each quarter we apply factors to those secured taxes, the AB8 factors to the secured taxes. There's different factors for the different rolls. We apply that to that countywide, and then that chunk of money is what comes to your district.
You're saying that number doesn't.
Yeah.
So
See,
the
this is where it gets confusing. Within each tax rate area, the allocation percentage remains static, but the AB8 factor that is derived from all the incremental growth changes every year. So that percentage is a small percentage, and it might be a fraction of a percent, or it might be 5%. I honestly don't remember what your number would be, and I wish I had looked at that one. But again, that's a percentage of the entire tax collections for the county.
Yeah, but that's a very small percentage of our revenue. I'm speaking specifically of the properties within the bounds of our school district that is it further in? Okay.
Yeah, so I think this might be sort of what you're asking. So and this is really county-wide, but this might be akin to what you're asking, and you can see there, of all the taxes that are collected, approximately 49% as of this year is going to school districts. Again, that's county-wide. That's not your district specifically as a percentage.
I've seen that figure, and that's not really getting to what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well,
but we can go back to, and you can continue.
Yeah, let me just go through and we can, if there's, I can provide information as a follow-up. Right. We can send it to Jason. He can get it to you guys. Let's see. Bond tax rates, back to just sort of procedure here. So the bond tax rates, when there are new school bonds, new issuances, refundings of those, that data comes to us. We calculate what those rates are going to be. We try to achieve, I don't know if any of you are familiar with how those go, but often they have big principal payments in one year, low principal payments the next year, and so they can go up and down. We try to get smooth tax rates over the life of the bond to the taxpayers. So we try to build a reserve so that we can do that. We can exceed the ballot. So when the ballot goes to the voters, it will state a maximum tax rate on there, and typically it'll explain that that's basically a suggested maximum rate for the first year. As time goes on, if for whatever reason, based on not as much growth as anticipated, if necessary to satisfy the debt service, we can exceed those maximum rates, but we always try and keep it under there if we can. And that's pretty uncommon that occurs. It does in some cases, but let's see, there can be unanticipated drops in valuation. Sometimes the growth we expect doesn't occur. And as I said, I covered the reserves. So some things that are specific to Carp Unified. Carp Unified participates in the teeter plan, which the teeter plan is something that was proposed way back in the 1930s, but as of the 90s, many counties started adopting it. We did. Carp Unified participates, and essentially what that is factoring receivables for, in most private sector speak. Essentially, there are some, when there are unpaid taxes, we go ahead and pay the district the full amount of your levy by the end of each year, or following the end of each year. And then the county takes on the burden of collecting the unpaid taxes and so forth.
Sorry, just real quick. So you say we participate in the teeter as though we have a choice. Like there's not like something else we could be doing aside from LCF. Like it's to be a basic aid district in Santa Barbara County, we are in teeter. That is how it is, period.
You could elect, so at some point, the district elected to participate in that.
Yeah.
You could elect not to, and then it would be the district's obligation to follow up on unpaid taxes and, or rather, let me rephrase that. I didn't say that well. We would continue to collect on the bills, but you would not get the full amount of your levy right on time with the end of the year. You would receive those funds when the bills are when the taxes are eventually collected.
So in exchange for that service the county provides, the county gets the penalties and interest.
We
right?
We take the
we get
penalties
100%.
and
We get
interest,
100% of the property taxes, the assessed valuation.
Yes.
And basically the collection fee is the penalties and interest.
Yeah. So by participating, you've ensured your revenue stream for the year.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been reading about it, and it's a different explanation than I thought than I understood last time you gave the presentation. It makes a lot more sense that essentially the county acts as a collection agent, and the fee becomes the penalties and interest.
Yeah, that's why I use the factoring receivables as an example. That's like the most common thing that people think of, from a business perspective. Yeah. You want to get your revenue, you want to have your cash flow stream coming in, and there's a cost to that. We take on the burden of doing everything, fronting the money, and
the upside to not being teeter really isn't there.
Well,
I mean, really, I guess it would depend on your geographic area. Where you have more delinquencies, maybe the penalties and interest could potentially be have an upside. But I think in our area, it probably doesn't.
I haven't been on the side of a district to see how beneficial or not beneficial that is. The city of Carpinteria doesn't participate. for whatever reason. It's something we've been hoping that, eventually we could get them to, because it would make our life a little bit easier, honestly. If you wanted to find out if it was a benefit or not, how significant, they would be somebody that you could talk to. But yeah, again, you're basically ensuring your cash flow.
Are there any school districts in Santa Barbara County that are basic aid that did not elect teeter?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Can I just make a comment?
Yep.
Hi, Ed Price, Assistant Auditor Controller. I'm not sure that school districts by law can leave the teeter program. When it was introduced, it was also introduced at the time ERAF was put out in the state, and it was a package deal. So I'm not sure you have the option of moving out of it if you want to. All school districts are put into it. So just before anyone gets their hopes up, and we do a lot of work, it may not be even illegal.
I don't even see the benefit of it.
There's no benefit, but just trying to understand, like when you say participate, it's like it intimates a choice in that.
My kids they participate in doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They love it. But actually, it's not a bad thing because you can depend on your cash flows. Sorry to interrupt, Trevor.
No, good. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't. There's the city of Carp and then a handful of very small districts, I think up in San Ynez Valley. Let's see, what else do we have here? So you're a basic aid school district, as you mentioned, and as such, you don't receive supplemental taxes, and you also don't receive a portion or an allocation from the Education Revenue Augmentation Fund, or ERAF. Non-basic aid schools do receive those, basic aids do not. You receive a portion of the 1% discretionary revenue, and you receive bond revenues for the bonds you have outstanding. There was a 1995 authorization and 2014. The 1995 one, I took a quick look, and as of this year, the rate on that is $1.26 per 100,000, and that's in its third refunding, and I believe that's the only portion of that bond that's outstanding, so that will probably be paid off after I don't remember what the maturity date on that is. The 2014 one, there have been Series A, B, and C issued on that, and a first refunding as well.
I think we refinanced the 95 bond in 2015.
Yeah.
When rates were really low.
Yeah. So that still has a little bit of time before it's paid off, but yeah. And the 2014 one, 3871, you see, is the bond rate on that for this year. You don't levy any parcel taxes. Santa Barbara Unified had parcel taxes for a while. Hope, as of about 6 years ago, I want to say, did take a parcel tax to the electorate. It was passed, and then that's been renewed. You're not impacted by any of the redevelopment agencies or dissolution of them in the county, and not affected that much by oil, mineral, and gas fluctuations. That's a question we get from some. So here's kind of another breakdown of the graph that we were looking. This is actually only as of 23-24, but we had about, what was that, a little over $1 billion, almost $1.1 billion. I think that's approaching $1.2 billion, and that's divvied up to the county, dependent special districts, the cities, independent districts, the schools and CCs, and to RDAs. And we already took a look at this. As you can see, the school district gets close to half, or the school districts get close to half the countywide taxes. After that, there's a graph that shows the historical values, assessed values in the county, and you can see that's gone up and up. But I know one of the things that's of current question these days is what's happening now. You can see at the far right of that graph, the lower line, the red line, you can see that assessed values were increasing up at around 8% in the last few years, but they've dropped back down under 6%, between 5 and 6% countywide. in the last couple of years. Following that, there's a median sales price, and as best I can tell, the line that's color-coded to Carpinteria, and this would be the city, of course, not the school district, but I thought it was interesting to see, is down. It's one of those bottom two lines. So values have increased, but when we do hear a lot about the significant increases in values, you can see the bright green line up at the top, which is Montecito, and with some, really crazy price increases there. So that, kind of speaks to, depending on the tax rate area that you might be in, the increases in values are not necessarily the same as what you're hearing about in the news.
Well, but so going back to that chart, well, I'll go back to the one before.
That's just median sales price.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
So go back to the historical assessed valuation or values.
Yes.
So can you explain how the assessed valuation is increasing so dramatically there, yet the percentage increase to the districts is not? Like, I don't understand the variation in the, shouldn't those two charts be kind of parallel?
Yeah, well, so if you look on the
parallel?
left-hand side of the chart, you'll see there's dollar values, and so the historical assessed value is that's looking at what is the value by year each year, and that's a steady increase. The red line would probably be better represented as a bar chart for that piece, but I pulled this from the assessor's website. Actually, no, I didn't. But at any rate, the red line might be better represented as a bar chart showing what the amount of increase in the value is each year, whereas the green line sloping up is cumulative. Does that help make sense?
Kind of, but so we see a sharp increase in, say, 20. The valuation seems like it's accelerating from about 12, 13, and then to current. It kind of it's not linear. It's more of a parabolic increase in valuation, and yet we have this spike now in 22, 23, 23, and now and then the two lines are diverging, and I don't quite.
If
you look at the.
I'm not sure. Is there a pointer on here? Is that? There's no pointer. Oh, actually, there is. It actually works. Okay, so see how accurate I can be here. Hold my hand steady. So right here, it's showing that approximately, I want to say that's 22, 23. There was about an 8% growth. And so, you see growth there, and it's not particularly perceptible, but you can almost see that there's a slight tilt in this line going this way because that 8% dropped down, let's say in the 7% in 23, 24, and then 24, 25 was back down here under this. So it's not really perceptible there, but these are still positive growth amounts. So this is the cumulative value going up, and this is just, what was the incremental growth in a particular year.
Yeah, year over year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that still doesn't, I still don't understand.
Oh, it's year from year.
Yeah, it's year from year.
That makes sense.
I'm
Is that
okay.
growth is small.
Because I guess the big kind of the purpose of this of us asking you here is because we see the valuations, because Carpinteria Unified School District is not just Carpinteria proper. We include Sandyland, Padero Lane, Foothill Corridor with all the cannabis operations, which have, been, the valuation on those have gone up dramatically compared to what the properties were before. We see Toro Canyon, and then you get into Summerlin. So we see this huge, there's a lot of big properties selling on Padero for, tens of millions, almost $100 million. When when the last time a lot of those turned over, they were probably their assessed valuation was considerably lower. And I know there's been a lot of improvements there, and so the expectation is that our growth rate is probably going to be closer to that 7% versus the 5%. And so that's why, we were surprised that we had 2 years of over 7.
Let me cover the next couple of slides, and then let's come back to your questions. What I've shown so far is just very general, county-wide information. This is a little bit more addressing your concerns. So this is a graph of the documentary transfer tax collected by the clerk recorder assessor's office. The clerk recorder actually is who's doing the collecting here. And this is a documentary transfer tax. If you're not familiar with it, when you transfer a property, there's a charge of, it's actually 55 cents per $500 of sales price, but you can think of it as $1.10 per thousand. And so the assessor's office puts this out, publishes this, and on the bottom, what you see in the bar charts is transaction volume. So this is the number of transactions of documentary transfer tax, i.e. how many properties were transferred and recorded at the office. The squiggly line on the top represents the amount of documentary transfer tax that occurred on those months. And you can see there's a wide variation because one sale may be a $10 million property, one might be a $1 million property, right? So that varies up and down significantly. And so what I want to draw your attention to is this area right down here. And I've drawn these horizontal lines. And so this is back through 21, 22, when we were seeing really significant growth. And you can see compared to, and we have seasonal ups and downs, and we can kind of see what was happening over the past 5 or 6 years there. And then during this period, we see that volume increase. And then here, the current year and last year, we see a significant decrease. And in fact, the data that we get along with this graph goes all the way back through 2000. The volume of sales in the last 2 years is the lowest it's been in 20 years. This is county-wide again, but it's still very low volume-wise. The important thing, and I have this on a subsequent slide, but the important thing to understand is that the sales prices don't translate to assessed value increases. It translates to the assessed value, but not necessarily the increase. If you've owned your property since 1980, it gets transferred, you might see a huge increase. But if somebody bought their home 3 or 4 years ago and they're turning around and selling it, they change their mind, what have you, then you may not see very much of an increase at all. So when I was here about 3 years ago, I didn't redo this, but looking statistically, it's about 7% plus or minus each year of properties that turn over. So every year, 100% of the properties are being factored up 2% or the lesser of 2% or CPI. And that's where you get most of your value increase across the county. It's only about 7% of the properties, and of course this can vary from area to area, that are being transferred or there's new construction related to them, and so you might see a substantial increase for those properties, but again, it's a small percentage of the number of properties. So Nevertheless, but that's the piece that takes you from 2% up to, say, 3% or 5% or 8% in terms of incremental growth. So when we see the lowest volume, one property, who knows? Maybe they've owned the property for 20 or 30 years. Maybe they've owned it for 3 years. But if we look across the board, it's pretty much going to average out. So when I look at this lowest volume in 20 years, that's what kind of translates to overall, there's going to be less value growth there. And we see that. We see that in the peak years, it was 7-8%, and we've seen it drop down to about 5.5 countywide, I believe, last year, and we don't know what it is going to be this year.
Could you create this same chart specific to a tax rate area?
Theoretically, yes. We've only recently started. Now, again, this is based on documentary transfer tax, and so from this we can. It's not a certainty. We can extrapolate the sales price.
Is that based on APN?
It's based on APN. We would be able to trace it back. And we have talked about what additionally we can do with this data to provide better information, but everything that we do takes work. It takes somebody to do that. So it's not something we've gotten around to. It's not something that I could just go back and run this report. Again, this is produced by the assessor's office, but theoretically, yes, that is something that could be done. We don't have that readily available where this data is broken to that level.
Could you ask them if they could provide it?
We can look into it. I can't make any guarantees about if or when we would be able to provide that at an individual level. I'm not sure what level of effort it would take to provide that on a county-wide basis, and as soon as somebody knew that we had done it for Carp Unified, everybody in the county would want the same thing, because everybody's going through their budget season as well. But that is something that we could, that would be interesting to look at, long term. But I can't make any guarantees on that. If you hadn't heard, we're in the middle of a major financial system implementation right now, which is pretty much tapping, every extra minute in our office to be able to get that completed successfully. So I can't commit any time to
extra stuff.
An additional thing at this time. I do apologize for that, but that is kind of the way it is.
Sorry, one other thing to
Sure.
note is that within the last 10 to 15 years, there has been a few years where it's been less than 2% growth.
It has been. Mm-hmm.
So that's...
Yeah, so there have been a couple times. One I want to say was about 3 to 5 years ago, where the CPI came in at just over 1%. It was probably 2020, right? And so so the values didn't increase there, and I wonder if that's visible on this chart.
You have a big dip in
that's
your...
probably like right in there, right?
Yeah.
And you see this, this right here. So overall, it was small. Another thing I just want to point out here also is they use what Excel calls a geometric graph. And so this real spike it's trying to project that, wow, things are really going to go up through the roof because of recent things. But, if you drew some trend lines there, you might say, well, it's kind of going up, kind of similar to how I want to say that was tax year 22, 23 was down here, 23, 24, 24, 25. Maybe I have those off by a year. I don't recall. I don't have can't see that small print, but you can see there's a slight increase here, and that probably corresponds to these value increases. But this line going up here, I would not, because I've seen this, and it can go up and down depending on, a month of really good or really poor sales. So don't read too much into that. Okay, let's see. That went too far. So this then, looking at the current year, and I know that's what you're concerned about, I made a note here. So at this point in the year, the assessor's process is they remove all exemptions on properties, welfare exemptions for churches and schools and so forth, at the beginning, probably not school districts, but for private schools, churches, museums, what have you, charitable organizations. The homeowners exemptions stay on, but the other exemptions are removed, and then they go about verifying that those are still valid. So at this point in the year, they have not done that. So this amount that's shown over here on the right, we don't read much into that at this point because it shows a skewed upward growth because last year's data is showing. And I guess what I should have said is this is a working roll report that we get from the assessor's office.
That's
When you call us up and say, what's our growth looking like for this year, I look at this report, and what I do, depending on the timing, is I will take the gross value from last year and the gross value from the current year and calculate a year-over-year gross assessed value. Now, it's the exemptions may change somewhat, but probably not all that much, so we give a lot more weight to that. And if I'm looking at the current year values over last year, you can see here I've calculated about a 3.99%. Now, that's also based on the fact that the assessor is still in the process of, this is the hardest part because you all and your counterparts always want to know what's my growth because we're trying to budget, we're doing this. So at this point, they are still catching up on any property transfers that occurred prior to January 1st. They're doing those appraisals now, trying to come up with new information. It's possible, in fact, that number will probably edge up a little bit. How much is difficult to say. You'll note the note at the bottom is basically saying this is a snapshot view at a point in time, and it's subject to change. So there's no guarantee this is what your growth rate's going to be. I just want to be very clear about that, okay? And historically, I would say, that, it probably is likely to edge up from there. One of the things somebody mentioned earlier was Prop 19, and I have another, slide on that. But there are, we've seen bankruptcies of oil companies. We've seen a variety of things going on. We've seen values that go down at times. And, with Prop 19, sometimes you think there's going to be a large value increase, and it doesn't pan out. I'll give you just an anecdotal example. We've just been dealing with, in the last few days, a refund for some taxpayers who sold their home in Pacific Palisades before it burned down, that they had owned for a long time, and they purchased a property up here. Now, the property up here was previously valued at, the factored up value was like $275,000. Somebody had owned that for a long time, right? They purchased it for $3.8 million. We thought, oh, well, there's going to be, and actually it had been assessed upward when the prior owner had died, but they purchased it for 3.8. And you would think, well, with that change in value, there's going to be a big increase in value to the tax roll, for that property. Well, then they transferred their value under Prop 19 up to this property, and their home in Pacific Palisades was valued at, I think, $875,000, something like that. So it dropped from that 3.8 million down to the 875. And so we just got through, or we're in the process of sending them a check for, $38,000 in a tax refund. So that's a big one, admittedly, but that does happen. So, like I said in the past, depending from year to year, what's going on economically, we could have expectations that that's going to grow a little bit, but with various things going on, it can't be a guarantee. So the best information that we can give you right now is just looking at that year-over-year growth.
I have a question.
In gross, year-over-year gross.
So, say a property doesn't change ownership, but it changes uses, so it wouldn't necessarily show up on your title fee report.
if there's no ownership change or completed new construction, no, it wouldn't. Now that does vary.
I'm speaking more like more as like the cannabis facilities in Carpinteria. So a lot of those didn't change ownership; they just changed use. And my understanding was those were reassessed at a different rate based on their the rezoned use.
I don't know the answer to that. That's really that's the assessor's wheelhouse, determining, whether, what is and what events trigger a reappraisal of the property. And I'm not knowledgeable on what happened with those. Of course, there's cannabis taxes as well, different from property taxes. I don't know. Do you happen to have any
I'm speaking
knowledge on what he's asking?
Come up to the microphone.
Sure.
I'm not an assessor, and like Trevor said, we have a separate elected official who takes care of the assessment activity. But my understanding, it's either transfer or new construction that triggers additional assessment activity. Maybe some properties that are under ag preserve rights get a special tax rate or basis for taxation, and whether they change the use of that from one to another to maybe cannabis may trigger them coming out of that, perhaps could result in
To industrial
to an increased taxation for property tax. But I'm not really sure. To Trevor's point, we'd have to ask the assessor, and they could give you a little bit better finite information on where that might happen. But I'm skeptical, just knowing those basic rules that they follow. So, not that I wouldn't like to find more ways to generate some revenue for everyone.
Yeah, I would be more inclined to expect that, if you're setting up that kind of operation, I know there's a lot of greenhouses in Carp, and so maybe you can repurpose that. But, if you're doing new construction on facilities, that might have something to do with it. And it could also be like a form of, ownership entity. If going into that business, if it behooves you to switch to a different legal owner of the property, then that could be something that would trigger it. But yeah, I'm really not certain. And I'm not certain, I believe that for property tax purposes, that would be treated as a crop like others and rolled into the secured value. I know, for something like, oil, mineral, and gas, they might assess valuation based on extraction.
I think they're treated.
I don't think that applies to these.
Differently than ag.
But again, that's really an assessor. That's really an assessor question. Let's see. Just a few other points that I think I've probably covered, but only about 7% of the properties transfer each year. It's based on what was the value, prior to being transferred. Again, that's why I look at the volume of what's going on across the county. An individual property may have been owned for 1 year or 20 years. Where is the growth? Is the growth actually in your jurisdiction? Again, we saw the graph that showed a lot of swing in the Montecito area. To whatever extent that some of that may overlap with Carp Unified, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure what the basis for that median value. Obviously, Montecito isn't an incorporated city, so they're to arrive at that graph, they're using some sort of a Montecito community area to determine that. Let's see, and of course there's the time lag, between that transfer and the actual revenue realization, which could be, a year downstream or what have you. And roll corrections during the year. We often find, as soon as the assessor determines that there's a value on a property and we issue bills, literally the very next day they're sending us corrections to the existing roll, and we're changing those and correcting bills. So, let's see. Can I get this to go in the right place? Getting late, so I don't know how much time you have, but on Prop 19, just a few things there. If you're not all that familiar with it, basically Prop 19 replaced Prop 60 and 90, which allowed for intra-county base value transfers, and in reciprocating counties, you could have a base value transfer. This replaced those. That was a one-time for people over 55. This increased it to a 3 times for people over 55, disabled, and victims of wildfire. So expanded that a little bit. You could transfer the value anywhere in state. If you buy something that's at a higher value as a replacement property, you can have a split base. So you transfer a portion of your base, and then there's going to be a new assessment component to that. So there's a limit on how much you can transfer. With the intergenerational transfers, parent to child or grandparent to grandchild, that replaced Proposition 58, and the limit, there's a limit, it implemented a limitation that the child needs to use that property as their principal residence. They need to apply for and receive the homeowner's exemption to get that, but it's also limited to a reduction of $1 million in assessed value. So beyond, if the difference in value is beyond that, then that base value is going to transfer up. And of course, this is, significant, as I said with the example, because this can impact the the value changes within your area depending on what's happening. I know recently we've seen, ever since it was implemented, we've seen an uptick in these base value transfers. So that's really the end of my presentation. I think we covered a lot of different topics and jumped back and forth. I don't know if you guys have any questions about any of those areas or.
I just have one. How do we see, or is there a specific area that's like Carpinteria Unified gets, and where's that line between Montecito and Carpinteria?
The assessor's office maintains maps for that, and those boundaries are determined by the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Committee. Actually, did they do that for the schools? Or it's the?
Not involved in schools.
They're not involved in schools. It's the other agency that handles the school boundaries. Sorry, I misspoke there. So the schools committee. I'm sorry, I can't. The name escapes me at the moment. They handle the
Santa Barbara County Education Office.
Is it County Education Office? I thought there was a separate.
They have a committee.
Oh, so the committee is part of county ed? Okay. They manage where the boundaries are, but the assessor keeps the map for those. Where exactly that line is, I couldn't tell you.
So so you'll be able to get Jason, when you go back to the office, figure out what percentage of the revenues derived from our district go to the schools?
What percentage of the revenue
of the tax collected in the school district area?
I can get you the allocation percentages
to
for the tax rate areas that form the school district.
And they're going to vary depending on how many different tax rate, how many different overlapping.
Yeah, they vary depending on those what different districts are overlapping.
And so, but Carpinteria Unified derives virtually all of its revenue from within the bounds of its area, of its zone. Is that correct? So we're not splitting money from elsewhere in the county.
Yes and no. It's a calculation methodology. The process that I was describing, where we look at the allocated revenue by jurisdiction, so the district and other districts that are included in a tax rate area. We look at the value growth and thus the tax growth within that tax rate area, allocate that by each jurisdiction based on their allocation percentages. Then we take all of the tax rate areas that form your district, and we take that incremental tax revenue for the year. We add that all up for your whole jurisdiction, and we add that to the revenue, the prior year's revenue for your jurisdiction. And that comes up, so that's your annual tax increment. So that tells you how much revenue you should be allocated for the year. That amount then is taken as a percentage of the whole for all taxing entities in the county of Santa Barbara. Okay, so you have this little piece. There's all the other school districts and every city and every other special district in the county, as well as the county entity itself. We say, what is your percentage of the whole? Then as taxes are collected, so we collect $1 million of taxes from Santa Maria, Carp, Santa Barbara, unincorporated area, Nukiyama. Those all go into a tax collection pot, and that percentage of the whole is used to allocate the money out to all of the taxing entities.
Okay,
You have to think of it.
That's confusing. So I want to. So what exactly makes us a basic aid district? I always thought it was our revenues that were derived from our area, within our unified school district, were in excess of what the state guarantee was.
And that is correct.
Yeah.
And that is correct.
And I also was under the impression, I think most people are under the impression that all of the properties within the bounds of our school district, that the taxes, whatever the percentage is, are applied to our district. They're not split out with only to our district, and they're not split out to the whole county.
I understand your confusion. It is confusing. You kind of have to put yourself in the mentality of 1978. And so, at the time, how do you go about figuring out how you're going to do this? And this was come up with as a methodology for trying to make the process efficient. We didn't have, computers at the time that would allow us to allocate to track each property and allocate that percentage out and track, or at least it wasn't affordable or, theoretically possible probably, but it wasn't really practicable to have that done at the time. So this was a methodology to try and make that allocation more efficient. The basic idea is that this should result in the same thing. So it should be plus or minus a small amount of rounding that by following this methodology, you're going to receive the same amount of revenue as if we took each property tax charge that was received in your district and gave it direct, within the area and allocated it to the various jurisdictions and gave you your portion.
Is there anywhere we could find or where you could show us what the valuation of properties within our district is? And then we could derive the property taxes based on that. I know that's a question I've had for some time, and I know a number of other people have as well, because it's hard to we have this sense that we have the high value properties that are turning over fairly regularly as the population becomes more affluent, and it'd just be nice to be able to see that as a figure, like rather than the gross county, whatever it is, $9 billion or $10 billion figure, to see break it out for Carpinteria Unified School District.
Yeah, as with how I responded to that question about the documentary transfer taxes, theoretically, yes. We don't currently have I would have to see what reporting we have available to provide the incremental change in value for specific tax rate areas.
So is it as simple as saying, if, in round numbers, if $40 million in assessed value was in Carpinteria and then collected, we should see 40 million.
Well, you
show
see
up for our
you see
budget.
1% of that, yeah.
Yeah, the one.
Allowing for a lag in time because each year the AB8 factors are recalculated, so there would be a lag in the timing of that. So it wouldn't be
It wouldn't be year to year.
it
but
wouldn't
there
be
should
exact
some
year to year,
correlation there.
but over time it should correlate. I'm going to let Ed say what he's got.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there, but a couple things come to mind. I hear exactly where you're going, and we really wish we had the data systems to do this with a click of a button. That's where we want to grow to provide that kind of information. But I think we might have some reports that we can do that might help you get where you're going to. I just wanted to comment on that 40 million, 1% discussion. That 1% does get shared with all the other entities in that geographic area, so the city would get a chunk, and the school, the fire district gets there. Yeah, see, and in rough numbers, if I recall, and this is done on the back of a napkin, I think the school district here gets about 2% of the county-wide pot that Trevor was talking about under the AB8 model. And I think probably you're closer to 55% for the territory of just your school district, that geographic area. But I'm shooting from bad memory, and I'm getting old, so it's probably poor.
That's close
but
to
what
I
I'd like to do, I think
calculated.
we've got the data, and I just don't know if we got the time, because Trevor's point was so valid. We're knee-deep in trying to put this ERP system in so we can actually do some other stuff. Let me see what we can do, and maybe we can get you some data that's maybe not as precise as we normally able to generate, but give you at least a sense of where you're at, and that would be a little bit helpful for
It
your
would be,
analysis
yeah,
here.
that'd be great if you could do that, thank you.
And one year, I think we will have a touch of the button, be able to provide this
Yeah.
regularly for you, be much more helpful and make Trevor's life so much easier.
We just want to know how the sausage is made, if you
Yeah,
will. Like,
yeah.
I get that it all gets put into a pot and it gets spit back out, but it's a black box,
Yeah.
and
And you know,
it's
if,
frustrating to try and have to plan for a year out, but we don't even know what happened this last year, where we had been looking at 7%, and then it dropped to 5%.
Well, and that the 7 and 8% over those,
7, 9,
21, 22, 22, 23, those were really kind of outliers, because following 2020, things just kind of went nuts. If you look historically, we've always used something, when we're talking to CEO's office about budget times and trying to project before we know anything at all, before we even have, before January 1st even rolls around, we always say, well, we'll look at this as at the most around 4.5%, because traditionally that's kind of where stuff ends up at. The 7-8%, those are really outliers.
Yeah, your cautionary tale on that one slide was 4%.
Yeah,
399.
Yeah.
Well, you can see. I mean, because we're dealing with this budget, and you probably listened to
Obviously,
some of the stuff tonight.
There's
and
a lot of concern.
And it's not like we're coming up with these numbers. I mean, we're getting advice from you. You're not going to give us a number. You're going to give us a kind of a range, and then we've got to do an educated kind of calculation and plug something for the because we have to project 3 years out. I think you guys are familiar with how school budgets work.
Yeah, we do a 5-year projections for the county administrator or the county executive's officer. Every year we're going through that process as well, and to be honest, we to a great extent we're kind of doing something similar to you. This is our best guess based on the information that we have. And we do the best we can. We try and project where we have some data that will support those. But you never know when the market's going to turn from one year to the next. in particular with the volume, like I said.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Any
thank you.
further burning questions? No.
Anything else?
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Okay.
your time.
Yeah, if you guys do have any follow-up questions, feel free to forward those to me, and we'll do the best we can to answer it for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
it.
much.
Okay,
Have a good
thank
evening.
you.
Thanks, Ed.
We are moving on to F, business operations and facilities. If you have public comment on anything under business operations facilities, F, please step up to the podium now.
Alrighty, first, the employees we represent thank those community members who provide gifts, grants, and donations to CUSD without any unethical or unprofessional strings attached. This evening, CUSD receives over $52,000 for sports programs, schools and libraries, teacher supplies, and a field trip. And although we regret that administration of district finances requires so much community support, we greatly appreciate the generosity the community continues to show. In that vein, we hope the community will consider how it can further support the CMS band program, which is struggling after the recent theft of thousands of dollars of instruments and equipment, including 8 headphone sets, 8 guitars, 1 ukulele, 2 keyboards, 2 practice drum pad sets, a very large set of Congo drums, an Apple TV, Wi-Fi devices, and safety equipment that was stored in the exploratory music lab. This theft, which is directly impacting students and families, was absolutely preventable had admin listened to teachers and their representatives the first time a similar theft had occurred. Ms. Rigby. As for the warrants, the district's legal cost for personnel, translated meaning disciplinary attacks against employee representatives, and their cost for negotiations, which translated means outsourcing CUSD bargaining responsibilities, total over $36,000. Therefore, another $36,000 is heaped upon the extraordinary $3.5 million of expenditures and accrued debt invested to the same end. Legal fees that account for approximately half the district's cost overruns in 23-24. There is no doubt our district officials' performance in this area of legal expenditures has been truly extraordinary. Unfortunately, as long as CUSD misappropriates tax dollars this way, the district will continue to underfund each of the following schools on a per pupil basis, as confirmed in the last SARC report released just a month ago. When compared to state averages, Aliso is underfunded by almost 20%. Expenditures per pupil underfunded by 20%. Catalino underfunded by 27%. CMS expenditures per pupil underfunded by 13%. CHS underfunded by 22.8%. And CFS, Carpinteria Family School, underfunded by 44.5%. The district will fail to invest in teacher salaries by $3,522,648 million to be exact, which is the exact number associated with CUSD's Ed Code violation exposed in the recent audit, just days before winter break. The district will fail to invest these millions of squandered taxpayer dollars to improve working conditions that would stem the exodus of highly qualified personnel from CUSD, who continue to leave CUSD to work in surrounding districts for better pay and working conditions. And boy,
Time is
again,
up.
we could go on and on and on. Thank you.
Your time is up. Any further public comment on business operations and facilities? Okay, seeing none. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the
Oh,
warrant.
sorry. I'm going to go through F1, warrants. I didn't state it. The board's asked to approve the warrants for the period of January 24-25 through February 6-25 in the amount of $462,914.94. Warrants are issued once a week on Thursdays. The report format shows check number, check date, payee, brief account description, payment comment, and check amount. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
F2, gifts, grants, and donations. We have a donation from, let's see here, 2A, donation from CHS Athletic Booster Club to CHS Soccer, Weight Room, and Golf Sports. We're being asked to accept a donation from Boosters for $5,685.80 to CHS Sports for soccer uniforms, adjustable weight benches, and golf green fees. May I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the donation from CHS Athletic Boosters Club.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Thanks, Boosters. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2B, donation from CHS Boosters Club to CHS Athletics and students. We're being asked to accept the donation of $13,000 from Boosters to Athletics for Spring General Fund, $6,000, and CHS students $7,000 for free admission to games. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. Thanks, Boosters.
I'll second that, and thanks Boosters again.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
2C, donation from Gary D. Lomley to CHS FFA. The board is asked to accept the donation of $100 for the FFA program.
I'll move to approve. Thanks, Gary.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
2D, grant donation from Teacher Fund, care of Village Properties to Carpinteria Unified School District teacher Katie Brown. We're being asked to accept this donation from the Teachers Fund from Village Properties. May I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the grant donation from Teachers Fund.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
2E, donation from CEF Carpinteria to CUSD K-8 school libraries. The board is asked to accept the donation of $30,000 from Carpinteria Education Foundation Carpinteria event to CUSD K-8 schools libraries for DLI and English books. The allocation is as follows: Aliso, $7,152.62. Canalino Family School, $11,799.52. Summerland, $1,161.73, and CMS at $9,886.10.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that and thank all the people that attended this really fun event. We appreciate your attendance.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We're asked to accept a donation from CEF to CUSD for a fifth grade field trip. It's a donation of $2,500 from CEF to the district for a fifth grade pilot Revolutionary War experience field trip. That's really cool. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have F3, the 25-26 draft school year calendar, subject to negotiations. We're asked to approve the 25-26 draft calendar, school year calendar, which is still subject to negotiations. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're moving on to G, personnel. If you'd like to make public comment on the personnel agenda, please step up to the podium at this time.
So a few board meetings back, and again this evening, union leadership and those we represent provided observations pertaining to the personnel report and the significant challenges CUSD is experiencing as it fails to both recruit and maintain and maintain talented personnel. How long will it take for CUSD's officials to understand that the economic stability or lack thereof of district employees has a direct impact on the stability of district students and families? The high turnover and transiency of personnel in the CUSD has a direct impact on the quality and efficacy of academic programs, social emotional connections, peer support, content mastery, volunteerism, morale, and extracurricular support that we can offer our district students and families. Once again, we have another mid-year resignation, two actually, and a mid-year retirement of an employee who was hired fairly recently. Those three positions fall under the special education program, all while the district continues to struggle to fill SPED positions that still remain open from others who have left the district prematurely. All the while, the district officials, like yourselves, refuse to acknowledge that CUSD's SPED program has experienced and continues to experience not just the routine challenges that other districts face, but the plethora of other unique challenges exacerbated by CUSD's very hiring, training, compensation, and administrative philosophies and practices. Those resigning have shared this with you. Those working in SPED classrooms across the district have shared this with you. Elected employee representatives have shared this with you. SPED families have shared this with you. In fact, the state and the county have even shared this with you, just as your own lawyers have shared this with you. But you continue to sit before the community and respond with the same mix of denial and often feigned shock and certainly contempt and bemusement, refusing to acknowledge that the elephant in the room is SPED and pointing in every direction you are, but never in the direction of those who could most significantly impact these matters, which would be at yourselves. After years of encouraging a robust exit interview process, you permitted Ms. Rigby and Ms. Zapata to implement the most token of processes, not designed to really understand why employees are leaving, but to instead allow the district to say that they have a process. And since its inception, it has been a Potemkin village of processes, absolutely hollow and designed to be just that. Noe, Maria, and Charlene are all leaving. You have an opportunity to better understand why, just as you did when over 70 employees fled the district last year. We understand that what you learn may reinforce the concerns that we share at these meetings, and that might be embarrassing to you, but you have a higher duty to the community, and it's time to perform that duty.
Any further public comment on G?
Thank you. Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. Commented several times that at least for one time, I would like to read the agenda without any resignations. And so far, for a long, long time, I haven't read one without a resignation, and several factors can cause someone to resign. It could be pressure from the district. It could be that they need to move because of the high cost of living. Could be that they will be earning a better salary somewhere else. Any reason at all. But I would recommend the district to avoid resignations for the benefit of children. Thank you.
Okay. May I get a motion to approve the personnel summary?
I move to approve the personnel summary.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Future agenda items, public comment on H.
Thank you. At the last two board meetings, union leadership requested that the board include 2 items on a future agenda. First, we asked again, and we ask again, that the board explore a resolution that educates kids on what to do if someone enters their physical space with a firearm. 1, stop. 2, don't touch. 3, leave. 4, tell an adult, and if you can't find an adult, call 911. Not a single district official has responded to this request, which was made at no less than 9 board meetings in the last few years. None of you. Second, we asked and again asked the board to explore the concept of exit interviews to acquire a better understanding of why CUSD employees leave the district. Not why employees in general leave their jobs, musings like that from Ms. Diamond, but why district employees who intended to provide CUSD many more years of quality service leave CUSD. Not a single district official has responded to that request either, a request that has been made at no less than 8 board meetings in the last few years. Not a single one of you. Finally, we asked the board to explore at a future board meeting why, even though CUSD is a basic aid district, is in the top 4% of the most robustly funded TK-12 school districts in the state, why are both expenditures per pupil and teacher salaries so far below state averages at every school site? At Aliso, expenditures per pupil 20% below. Catalino, 27% below. CHS, 22.8% below. CFS, 44.5% below. And teacher salaries, how about Catalino at 19% below state averages, or CMS at 20% below state averages, or how about the high school at 26.8% below state averages? When we mentioned this at the last board meeting, Superintendent Rigby, to many of your nods, dismissed the data, stating that it was old, a year old. She failed to share that the SARC data is always a year behind the current time. But if the most current data were crunched today, these numbers would be even worse due to the lack of an employee increase in 20 months and the failure to invest $3.5 million, as you were supposed to, required by Ed Code. But if you wish to focus on the distraction that the data is a year old, just consider for a moment who was in charge a year ago. Superintendent Rigby, 7 years in the district. Ms. Diamond, 4 years on the school board. Mr. Smith, 4 years on the school board. Mr. Bridgeford, 2 years on the school board. Ms. Green, 6 years on the school board. And Mr. Schaefer, approximately 15 years on the school board. So I'm not sure that 1 year discrepancy that you were referring to moves accountability off your shoulders for the numbers that we're looking at. Thank you. We look forward to seeing that on a future board agenda.
Okay, so for further public comment.
Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. Last night, exactly the same time, the city projected its budget. Good news. A lot of expenses, but they're standard. Healthy budget. I hope that our next budget development would be good, just like the city. I think that families, students, and teachers deserve it after so many years of problems with the budget. Just hope for a healthy budget development. Thank you.
Okay, any comments from the board for future agenda items? We have of note our 2025-2026 budget development, LCAP mid-year update report. Anything else? Okay. Let's see here. Nothing on the board calendar. Board announcements. Any announcements from the board? Anything coming up?
I was able to attend the coffee with the principal at the high school, and I encourage parents to check your calendars or check Parent Square for the coffee with the principal, because it's an easy way for one-on-one conversations, for you to have your questions answered and to find out what's happening at each of the school sites. I also was able to attend the Family Friday, which a lot of the parents tonight talked about, and it was very fun. There were lots of activities that were provided by parents and teachers for the students. So it was a fun afternoon. I encourage you all to go to that. And I wanted to thank all those people that came tonight and provided us with their views about lots of things going on.
Anybody else? There's the CSF, the Scholarship Foundation, the deadline is coming up for high schoolers. It's coming up on Thursday. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's in a parent square, but I just wanted to reiterate it. Sorry, I meant to pull it up beforehand.
California Scholarship Foundation?
Where is it? Yeah, California Scholarship Federation. Applications are available for all high school students. Applications are available in the office, but they are due on Thursday. So it's just something to note if you have a high school student and you've talked about it, or last year you've applied. It's the deadline is coming up. But other than that, that's it. Okay. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks.